Welcome back to Film-Studio-Taku-in-Japan. Today I am going to show you a very short tutorial on how you can get an image like this to an image like this using Capture One. There are a lot of ways to do this, and I would say in general it's always a good idea to experiment with the adjustments here to get to this. And you'll see I did do this a little bit, but most of what you're seeing here today was actually done just using the Styles tab. And I'm showing you this because it is useful and it is something that can speed up your workflow. But the reason I do emphasize learning these adjustments here is because this is how you become a good editor. This is how you get to a level where not only can you correct a lot of things and bring out the image that you really want to, but even when you're working here in the styles and the presets, it gives you a better understanding and a base to know what you're looking for and how to get to it and how different things will affect it. So, but what I'm doing here is extremely simple. Okay, so today, how did I get to this image? We're going to start by clicking the wrong button. We're going to get down to the actual image that was, which is here. We'll do this one. And what I want to emphasize here, the reason is because the shadows. And that's basically what we're trying to do today. We're trying to accomplish lifting the shadows as much as possible without destroying the highlights. Now, some areas you'll see I did blow out just a tiny bit, and I can get that back. So let's do a new variant. So this brings us back to the original image untouched. There's nothing been done to this at all yet. But now we're going to go in here to our styles, and I'm going to show you the way I originally got here, which is kind of funny because if you don't know Capture One, a lot of settings, they basically get blanked out by adding newer settings. So here I went to Film Extra Shadow, and this is where you have your general Fujifilm simulations. Most of them, the ones that would be in the camera, some of them, like this Extra Shadow film one that I chose, is not in camera. Now if I go into built-in styles, image quality styles. Now here, a lot of time what I choose is the IQ Professor. It gives you a pretty good base. It just tends to raise the shadows and give the whole image a properly exposed, or at least nothing is blown out and nothing is in the sub-black range. So it's nice, but I found that landscape gave me more of what I was looking for. So now we're still using these two effects. If I turn this on, it's still in effect. The effect is in effect, yes, that's what I said. Okay, so going back there, and we're just gonna go here to Legacy, Skin Effects. Now this is where Capture One gets a little wonky. It makes sense to those that are familiar with it, I'm sure, but I will say I personally, even just getting ready for this demo, I've noticed inconsistencies. These things that I'm going to show you are not always the way they are. That makes sense, I swear. So I'm going to go here to Skin Effects Golden 5. Ooh. So see what it did here is it gave us a lot more deep sky, put a lot more blue into the sky, where before with that off, it's kind of washed out and muddy looking. There's still detail for sure, but this just gives it a nicer look overall. I think we've lost a little bit of contrast in the clouds, but we can bring that back. So now, if you look, when I do turn that on and off, so this turned it off. So here's my landscape. When I go to Skin Effects Golden 5, landscape disappears. And similarly, I've been in Japan for 13 years, don't expect perfect English. When I go into here, I have custom curve, custom tune. When I turn this on, watch what happens up here to the Golden 5. It has now been overridden. Now if I turn off the Golden 5 and turn it back on, It's interesting, right? Because it's overridden, but still when I turn it off, this is a different image. So this is where it gets wonky, and I've seen 3 different results doing this exact same switching back and forth today. Now, it may be my computer, which is fairly heavily overclocked, doing something weird with Capture One, or it may be within Capture One itself. I don't know. But I would say that it's very important. Like, it's why I often do, we'll put Golden 5 on before we do that. We're going to turn this off. That's why often I clone the variant before I go too deep into it. Because if I like what it looks like right now, before I do much more to where I may forget how I got there, or I have to go do a lot of undos to get back there and still maybe not be sure exactly which point it was that I liked. It's just a safe way to save it exactly as it was when you're starting to like the image, and I like it here. So we actually don't need to do this custom one because they cancel each other out. So this is how we got to the basic image that I'm dealing with here. So now at this point we're going to go into adjust, and the first thing we're going to do, though honestly it's usually better to do this as the last thing, but just to do it quickly here, this jet stream with the blinking light, that's what that light is, that or this little dashes, that's the, as the plane flies by it blinks, and you're seeing jet stream as well. So this is really easy, but to do it well is a little more tricky. You just basically, you want to have a size that's about the size of the thing you're masking out, but then have the hardness fairly low, and even a little bit lower on the opacity than 100%. And you can even adjust the flow just a little bit. So now what we're going to do here, we want to make sure that we're all the way over, seeing that whole entire thing. Okay, so we're going to take that heel mask, and we're going to do not the whole thing as one, and the reason being that it's going to create a slight shadow. I can show you really quickly. Shadow or a highlight, because it's going to grab it from up here. Now I don't know if you can see that or not. It actually did. That actually did a pretty good job. Okay, but oops, that was an accident. But if I show you here, let's just take that same mask and say that the automation shows a different area here. There we go. Well, it's doing a really good job this time, but sometimes you'll see it more than others. You can kind of see it a little bit there. But generally speaking, what I like to do is I like to do a little section at a time, because I think in doing that, you're scattering out that line, and though the lines technically will be there, they just don't draw the attention of the eye as much. You don't tend to notice them. Though sometimes it is one of those things where you're more likely, though, by doing multiples, to have one that looks more prominent than the others. Regardless, this is how I suggest doing it, even though it did pretty much do it perfectly this last time, which is again funny because earlier I did essentially the exact same healing mask, and it was a pretty clear line there. It may show up though here soon, because as we do adjustments, sometimes those things will show up. So what we're going to do is pretty simple here. We're going to simply go into our style brushes, and we're going to go to enhancement, deep sky, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a massive brush. This is the simplest way to do this, and we're going to do it right above the city line, or really the factory line here. We can go down into the factories, but it's kind of better, in my opinion, to do a second mask to do that. So first, let's just adjust this layer though. Okay, so highlights are likely not going to be affected very much, and I think that has to do with the styles that we already applied. Shadows, however, we can do a lot with. You see now suddenly those clouds are popping out, and also these smokestacks are really starting to pop out. Now that's why I went up high though, is because I don't want to blow out these highlights like I did earlier. This time I'm going to try and do actually a better job than that initial edit. So we can mess a little bit with the saturation, and I like to go pretty heavy on it because in this one particularly I printed out earlier, and the sky came out pretty gray even though I already had quite a bit of blue in there. So we are going to go fairly heavy contrast and heavy saturation. Now what we can also do is clarity. Normally you don't want to go too heavy on clarity and structure, and you know, you're definitely going to introduce noise, as you can see here. If we take away that clarity and structure, there's a lot less noise. But you know what? I will happily trade this detail here. I think it's probably more evident over here. I swear, this program likes to make me a liar. But anyways, it is personally, oh, see, we got these, that's why, because we're still low. Here we go. So if we crank these up, actually I really do like this look. Now this is super zoomed in. I do see where it starts to look a little bit, it's a fine line between noise and pixelation, but globally when you take this out, I really like the way it looks. It gives a lot of structure to that smoke, and we're really just going for an epic image. We can clean up the noise later, but see, a lot of that, what looks like noise, when I zoom in and give it a second, it goes away because my computer's just not that fast, even overclocked. So yeah, it's looking really good to me though already here in the details. I think what's happening here too is my room is getting hot. I turned off the air conditioning, so I think the computer is throttling itself. So for right now, let's see where we came from though. So here to here, I mean, that's already an amazing image and an amazing improvement, but there's a lot more we can do here. We're going to work on the sky more, and we'll do probably another mask down here, healing mask or something, or not healing mask, a deep sky mask. I kind of use deep sky mask for a lot of things that are not deep sky related, but anyways, what we're going to do though is we're going to globally adjust it. We're going to go here to background. If you do any adjustments right now, it's going to adjust in here, and we don't want to do that. We want to adjust the whole image. You could do another mask down here, but I like to keep it simple, because if you do too many masks, you start to see the separations. So what I'll do here is I'll adjust here, and then I can go back to deep sky and adjust again. So what we definitely want to do here is bring out the shadows here. Again, this is a nice image as is, and some might like it this way, but there's so much detail hiding here that it's a shame if we don't bring it up. So what we'll do is bring up the shadows. I tend to go too far and then back it down, because then I can kind of know what's really there and what is overboard, you know. And then even after that, I tend to go a little bit back. But right here is looking pretty good. It's a little bit overboard, but what we can do here, instead of bringing the shadows back down, I zoom in a little bit here so I can really see what's going on in the shadows, is I use the black and go down with a black. So this way we retain more of the shadows, but we still darken things up. So if you look here, that was before the black adjustment, and this is after. Pretty good. I think what I will do though is just edge the shadows down just a tad bit more. I'm not playing with the white because it's similar to the highlights. You can see there's a little bit. Actually, I will go up just a tiny bit there. Sometimes tiny bit blowing out highlights is actually a good thing. So now what we can do is we can also raise the exposure just a tiny bit, and then drop the shadows one more time, just a tiny bit, and the black maybe. Yeah, that's a fine line here. but that's pretty good right there. Really want to focus on these details up close too and see how they're looking, because this is what a lot of people are going to be focusing on, because this is a GFX file. This is a GFX 100S. There's so much detail, so people do tend to get into the little details more than I think other images when you're looking at this resolution, like this staircase, for example, where you can see every single step. It might not look super high resolution right here, but when you look at it globally, how small that actually is in this image, it's pretty crazy. And what we're going to do here now is we're going to go a little bit more crazy. So within reason, we are going to increase the clarity and the structure. We're not going to go quite as heavy as we did in the sky, which is usually the opposite. Usually in the sky is where you take it more easy, but there's a reason I'm doing this. It's almost beyond words why I'm doing it, but let's see here. We're going to undo that. Yeah, and then we're going to redo it. So I am going to back off on the clarity, actually. Yeah, I think we'll keep the clarity and back off on the structure. Ooh, though, it's actually starting to like that. Again, we're like, if this was a image this size, I would say I went too far, but when you look at it globally, sometimes going a little too far with these files, because there's so much detail there, it can really be impressive. So it's a fine line, it really is, and there's no wrong or right answer. I mean, again, if I were to look at this globally, and if I take off this clarity, that's still a fine image, and it has a little bit more atmosphere to it, which is nice. But this is also nice. I think we will back off on the clarity, though, at this point, just a little bit, and back off on the structure. So it's always important, though, definitely give the global view, you know, more than a once-over, and also give the close-up view more than a once-over. There's still plenty of detail here. I can always add more later. And yeah, this, by the way, is with the 250mm lens, but it's using the teleconverter, so it becomes a 350mm, though on the GFX sensor with the 0.79 crop, it actually becomes about a 277mm. So normally when I do this this Skyline, which I actually get to visit once a week, I usually use the full, without the teleconverter, but this was early on when I had the GFX camera, and I actually am looking at this and I'm like, I should do this every time. But the catch is, this is actually a series, this is for a giant panorama of the whole entire Skyline, and it's like 17 images total, and I have before stitched it together, and it was more than 1,000 megabytes if I remember correctly. But this time I'm gonna just be a little bit more meticulous with my editing. I am working on it for this is why I'm sharing, because I've actually started diving back into this. Yeah, I'm probably gonna put it on my wall, but it's definitely gonna be available for purchase if anyone's interested. So now we're at this point where I think we're starting to look pretty good. We can look here at one of the ones we did earlier. Never going to be exactly the same. I mean, you could, but it takes time. And one thing I will do, though, I remembered is, actually, though, this one doesn't have as much for some reason, but you can see it there, though. The green actually looks nice here, though. So there's a green thing in Japan. These lights, I'm sure it happens other places in the world, but in Japan, you know, I arrived here 13 years ago, and they were actually a lot more predominant. But I forget what it is, the type of light it is, like halide something, whatever it is. Even though it doesn't look green to the eye when you're actually looking at the light, the way light works, when you take photos of it, it usually shows up green. And you can see here, even on the reflections of the building, you get these green colors, which can be interesting and actually really cool looking at times. And I do like the way it looks here, and I may, actually what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to clone this variant, because honestly, for my own personal use with this photo, I want to have that as an option. But if you look here, what I can do is, we'll zoom in a little bit here, It's still going to be green in these lights. I mean, I could get rid of it, but I'm not gonna. But I'm going to go here with the Kelvin towards yellow. Not quite that much. We're going to go back a little bit. Actually, where were we? Okay, yeah. So we're going to go right about there. And then we're going to actually go a little bit into the magenta. I know everyone, oh, it's got magenta. It's okay. Sometimes you need magenta in your images. Sometimes it adds to it. So this is a little bit too much though right here specifically. Okay, that's... Wasn't noticing that in the earlier images. Why is that there now? Interesting. Did I just go way too heavy in the magenta? Oh, we're in the wrong one. No, we're not. Yes, we are. Okay, so back down here. Okay, here we go. So we're going to take the magenta way down and see what's going on there. I'm not sure why that magenta showed up. I guess we went too heavy. For the sake of keeping this tutorial relatively short, we'll just do a very tiny adjustment here, and we'll try to address that later. So now, overall though, I'm very happy with what this image is looking like. The details are phenomenal. We are going to now hit the sky again, and we'll do likely another mask down here. So we'll go back to our deep sky layer, and we're just going to start at the top one more time, and we're going to just kind of adjust and see what we can do here. So too much, and that's where that's coming from. Earlier I put too much in there. Okay, we could go darker there. Exposure, contrast. No, we'll take that down. Okay. We can go way up, but no. Okay, so somewhere in that ballpark, and I am going to take the clarity down a little bit in the sky. Now, I think why this is looking a little bit weird to me is because I have not addressed this building area here. So we are going to do a new layer, and then this layer we will do as a... Sorry, we're going to do it down here. Use on new layer. So that will do another deep sky layer, and we'll make this much, much, much smaller. And we're just gonna basically go in here and adjust this area. Now actually I'm gonna do, well, we'll see how it turns out, because yeah, I'll tell you right now that I have the settings wrong on that. I was paying more attention to the light here than I was to my actual mask, which was way too hard. So we're going to take the opacity down, flow down, and we're actually going to ignore that building for now because it's just too bright compared to everything else going on here. So we're going to take this in this general area here and just skip that light too, and skip the smokestack, or the smoke coming out of the stack rather. So now let's work with what we just did. Let's see if it adjusts highlights. No, still stuck on those. So you can see this can get out of control really quick, but what we can do is we can actually emphasize the fog, would be the wrong word, the pollution layer there. Some of it is fog though, because this is right on the ocean, so it's a mix of pollution and fog. Or maybe we can make a word like smog. Alright, I know, I'm ridiculous. I think we'll take that down to a bluer tone. I like that right there because it looks almost like it's raining. And we can even, so we have two choices here. I'll show you from here. So from here, we can take the clarity down and it's going to start looking more foggy. which is kind of cool. It's an interesting effect. But no. We can always add that later again too. But what we're going to do actually is we're going to play with clarity. We're going to see how far we can go now here. There we go. See though how even little shadows in there start showing up. Where again, if I zoom all the way in, okay, sure, I see the pixels finally. Or at least the structure of the grain. But when you come even this far back, you know, what I did, see, right here is just muddy detail. It's still detail though, it's still amazing, but when we go up here, suddenly, I mean, you can feel that texture now. At least I can. And we could even go up a little bit on this, but I'm very cautious now with the structure because we already got so much detail in there. What you see over here too. Turn it off. Turn it on. Yeah. Over here with the crane, which should be pretty in focus because I think my focus point is back here a little bit more. I do see a little bit what I don't like there. That's probably from the masks mixing, but it could be from the clarity as well. Or the structure. You can now, I mean, this is where, I mean, when you're really going to print this and try to sell this for top dollar and print it large, this is where you can start going and messing with individual bits. I'm just going to do this one real quick because I don't want to spend a lot of time doing. We don't have to do deep sky this time. We're just going to do a regular mask. Also set huge, isn't it? And we're just going to mask around here a little bit. Nope. There we go. Okay, we're just going to. Okay, and all we're going to do is we're going to play a little bit with the contrast. We're going to play a little bit with the clarity. A little bit with the structure. So our lights are going to start to be more blooming and less funky. There we go. Oh, no, went a little too far. Take down the saturation a little bit. I mean, we can even play with the color just on those lights, basically. But you see it starts affecting the sky, unfortunately. Yeah, actually the pink kind of took away that focus. No. You know when I said this was going to be a short tutorial? Yeah, that's why I'm going to basically call it here. Because now I'm just being, this is where I get OCD, so I'm not going to get OCD too much for you guys here. I will say you do notice there is something there that definitely is worth taking away. It's looking to me like a hot pixel, and we're just gonna boom, and that should just get it. There we go. That's fine. I'm not gonna. You can start thinking every little piece of grain is a hot pixel. The GFX sensor, as you probably know, is very prone to hot pixels, though. So again, I mean, I can clean up this noise, but there's really no reason if I'm printing it, because when you print stuff, that level of grain does not get picked up, at least not on my printer. I have a very nice Epson printer, and yeah, I realized quickly that what I think is unacceptable grain is not even a thing when you print. So yeah, looks pretty damn good. And again, we could mess with it more, but let's just compare to, first of all, what we had earlier. So that was, you know, that one, obviously I got a lot warmer here in the background, but I would say a little too warm in the, in the foreground, but too warm in the background. This one, it's a little bit more cool feeling, but that kind of fits the industrial vibe, I think. It's kind of a little gray and cool feeling, but I do generally like that. Again, I can push the shadows through the roof if I really want to. I could do a quick little pass over everything again, just kind of get a finalized perfection. Not going to mess with colors for the moment. Actually, you know what? Yes, because we took away that magenta. His name was Magenta. came from the deep forest to teach what it is to be a man. Okay, sorry. So here we go. So yeah, I'm definitely brightening it up here quite a bit, but as I keep looking at these shadows and just being like, oh, there's detail there, let's bring it out. Regardless, let's just see where we came from again. From here, I mean, come on. I mean, look at that. Look at that. So when you shoot a shot like that, on any raw file, but especially something like a GFX or something with very, very higher dynamic range, you know, don't throw away that picture if you like the frame. You know, if things look good, like where you wanted them to be, and you're like, oh, but this one was too dark, keep it. If you're not good enough now to do this, wait. But I mean, if you really looked, I mean, that was just, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna show you the lightning fast version that I should have showed you from the beginning. But really, if you want to get there super quick, here's all you do: film, extra shadow, golden 5. Oh, and what was the other one? Skin effect. Oh, we already have that on. Landscape is not gonna, I think that's gonna cancel it out, right? That's what it was doing. That's right. Okay. So, and then just go to adjust styles, and let's just say you don't even want to mess with the masks. Well, guess what? You don't have to. You don't have to. You can still pull something great out here. Not as great, don't get me wrong, but you can still pull something great out of here. We'll do a quick version of the heel. Boom. It's gone. Okay, and we will do, you know what we'll do? We'll just really quickly. This is the quick version of the deep sky, okay? So we just set this big. We're going to do the whole shebang. Opacity down. This down. A little bit bigger. Because we're getting into the buildings this time. We're going to just skip that flame. That's the only thing I want to skip, because I know that flame is going to get blown out. Okay, and then here we go. You can even dehaze. That was something I totally didn't think about, but no, we want the haze though. We want the haze. You see that? That came back. Interesting, isn't it? So it didn't do a very good job there. We'll get that again. So, and then clarity and, where are you guys? There you are. Clarity, structure. We'll do in the background too. Clarity, oh, we already did it anyway. Okay. Clarity, structure. Heal that one more time, since obviously it didn't do a very good job. See what I mean? Alright, so that's why we do it in sections. We're not going to put them perfectly this time though, we're just going to, you can see the line this time. But when you zoom out, you basically don't see it. So there we go. This versus that. Again, now I'm liking this more, because I'm looking at this now and this looks like too much here, so. You know, it's funny how these things work. I didn't adjust the color down there. We'll do that now. Or did we? We did. No, did we? Yeah. Deep sky layer, we'll go the opposite way to really create some separation there. Okay, there we go. Probably the best one, except for some of the ones I did earlier that were really good. But yeah, so anyways, like I said, this is a very large panorama here. Just show you really quickly. I mean, this goes way further the other way, but this way it goes all the way up against, there's another bridge there. And finally there's buildings over here. You can't really go much further than right. I think we're already at the edge, right about there. By going the other way, this is where it gets really impressive, and I will be doing a tutorial on stitching this. You got the Yokohama Bridge there. There's I forget what it's called. It's a tower there near the water in Yokohama. There's several. And then that's actually Skytree right there. There is Skytree. So Skytree is pretty far away, but you'll see it again here from this angle here. This is the Minato Mirai area. So there's at least 10 kilometers between those two, I believe. And there's 5 or 10 kilometers between me and these buildings here. It's really amazing the clarity you get of this lens. Of course there's going to be some atmospheric distortion, but when you zoom in here, give it a moment. That one's a little bit less sharp than some of the other ones, which is why I do multiple shots, because I always want to make sure at least one. There we go. It's really sharp. Of course there's atmospheric distortion, and of course you can zoom in on Skytree, but you can still tell that's Skytree, and that's, I believe, a building in Shibuya. That's not even that close to it. It's just the perspective. Yeah, so anyways. Oh yeah, and that's the crazy thing during this one. I've done the same panorama several times. This time, though, I just caught the very end of it. Fireworks. Yeah, I was actually starting to pan to the next one, and I saw those, so I came back to the bridge. It's like, fireworks. And yeah, I got a few shots of the fireworks. So I should actually try again soon, because it's summertime. There was actually like an hour-long display of fireworks in my backyard last night. Not in my backyard, but I could see it from my backyard. We're kind of up on a cliff, so lucky like that. So yeah, here you go. The Skyline. This, by the way, is Yokohama Landmark Tower. It's a really nice view from there. Very fast elevator. It's like 80 stories or something crazy like that. It goes up so fast. It makes you feel like you're on a roller coaster. Okay, and I'm probably going to have to adjust some audio level because I know my voice is getting weak. I actually did this video several times and kept having audio problems. I finally figured it out. May have to do a tutorial on that because it was driving me crazy. Alright, wrapping it up here. Thank you for watching Film-Studio-Taku-in-Japan, and I will see you in the next one. And let me know if this tutorial is useful, and definitely like it, subscribe, share wide and far. Peace.